Satan. One's another one. That one's I mean, again, it's not the name of someone. It's not the title of anything, right?
No,
In fact, I believe it was transliterated, right? Not translated.
exactly, exactly so. Yeah, the Hebrew word Satan.
That's right.
It's a noun and it's a common noun. Now, a title or a name like David or YouTube, these are names or titles. Those are called proper nouns. And so Washington, Brisbane, Hong Kong, Christopher, these are all proper nouns. But this noun, Satan or Satan, this Hebrew noun, is a common noun. Now, a common noun is something like key, book, fish, tripod, iPhone, pen, glasses. It's not so glasses is not a title or name of anybody, and nor is Satan. It's a common noun meaning enemy, and that's how it's always used. And it then is also in the Greek, and there's another Greek word, satanas. They both mean exactly the same, and they both mean enemy. They're both common nouns.
Right. So that means every time you see the word Satan in the Bible, it you should read it as enemy or adversary, because that's what the
Yeah,
word means.
yeah, exactly. If you've got a Bible that says Satan with a big S, cross it out, tip-X it out, and write enemy or adversary, lowercase.
So then, do you want to get into some of the passages that talk about Satan? One of them I always mention is I call it the Job problem, and it is a
Yes,
problem because how literary device that's used in Job, which is poetic story, pretty much. I mean, I believe it was real, but the way it's told, right? And
yes.
it
Well, I
wasn't.
did a video series on Job, and I'm going to put this into a book with my friend. We're going to make a book out of that and be our next one. We're doing Women in the Bible at the moment. Job, God willing, will be our next. The whole story of Job has been given such shallow treatment as the Lucifer passage. So Lucifer, they see one word, oh, there you are, Satan. Never mind that in verse 4 it says King of Babylon. Never mind chapters 13 and 14, the whole context. Never mind the parallel passage in Jeremiah 51. Let's just look at one word, see how the church uses it, and call him Satan. You know, it's pathetic. And so it is with this Satan. And Job has such shallow treatment. And so here's the story of Job summarized. So brevity is the soul of wit, Polonius in Hamlet. There's this man called Job from the tribe of Naphtali, I think he was. It says in around Genesis 46. And he's a popular, successful, and righteous man. He's at a meeting with the sons of God, and he lives in the land of Uz, UZ. Now, Lamentations chapter 4 tells us that this is an Edomite region, enemies of Jacob, so Edomite from Esau. So this Edomite in the land of Uz wanders into this meeting of the sons of God. And now he's a vagrant. He wanders about the land. Of course, in the King James it says, goes to and fro in the earth. But I don't think that's right. He wandered about the land. He was a vagrant and a no-gooder. He sees Job and he's got it in for him. He hates him and he wishes him evil. God hears this. There's not a literal conversation between this man and God. Of course there isn't. Yes, it's written as if there is, but I'll come to that. And so God thinks, actually, I'll show this Edomite, if he was an Edomite, it probably was, As I just have to qualify that, but it was an Edomite region. So God thinks, excuse me, Lord, for saying it that way, not meaning irreverence. I will show this man and these enemies of Job about my people. And so he allows certain adversive events to happen to Job, terrible things, not all in one day. It's over a period of time, because by the time he gets rebuked by the young man, whose name I've forgotten in chapter 32, I can't remember, but he's an old man by this time, Job. So this is over a period of time. Now, this enemy of Job is described in chapter 16, and there's another word for enemy, and and it's zar. That's the Hebrew word. It also means enemy or adversary. So link that with Satan in Job 1 and 2, and then zar in chapter 16, and then there's another word, avil, I think it is. It means enemy. It means unrighteous, I think. And I should just check that in my footnotes, but I won't. But it's he's an unrighteous and an ungodly man and an enemy. And chapter 16 exposes him as a bully and a thug. They're beating Job up. That's what Job's about. A thug, a vagrant, a bully in the land of Uz, who's jealous and envious of a righteous, popular, successful man who can worship God in a meeting with God's people. And now, why is it written in the way it is? Right, Job's comforters and Job speak like Shakespearean actors. Their language is wonderful. Well, I tell you, I'm 75. I've been reading, I started reading high literature when I was 18, studying Keats, and I've done it ever since. So I've studied, great English literatures. Not ever in my life have I heard one single person speak freely like Job's comforters and Job in such high literary, poetic language. It's written as a dramatic narrative. And from this form of poetic, dramatic narrative come the great English works of poetic narrative like Beowulf, Chaucer's Canterbury Tales, Chaucer's Legends of Good Women, Shakespeare's plays particularly. So that's what it is. It's a poetic narrative. And that's the story of Job. It's nothing to do with Satan. And somebody put on one of my videos recently something about a comment, and a comment against me saying that these were people in heaven. And well, it doesn't say that. It says no such thing. Heaven is not mentioned.
And that's the thing. Not the books of the Bible are written differently. So, like the first 5 books of the Bible are written a certain way. Revelation, I believe it's called a chiasm, on how that's written. You have the Psalms are written a certain way, and then Job is almost like a poetic. I want to call it a poetic story, but it's written differently than other books. Is what I'm trying to
Yes,
say here.
different literary forms.
So that's why I call it the Job problem, because it's written almost like a Shakespearean tale, and people take it literally instead of realizing that it's a literary device on how to tell a story. That I do believe the story may have happened, right?
The story happened.
Yeah,
Yes, I
right,
do believe that. Otherwise, why tell it?
right. But it's a dramatized way of telling the story. God
Yes.
wasn't sitting with a monster talking about something. Okay, that's
No.
right. So it was just a way. The story of Job happened, and then when they were writing it, they kind of told it in a dramatized way, and that's why people take it literally, and that's the problem with it.
Yes. Yeah, you see, so you see this, and you see why I say how shallow the popular teaching about it is. It's pathetic. It's at a pathetic level. And just looking at one word in the church translations, they see in Job 1 and Job 2, they see the word Satan with a capital S, And from that, they construct their narrative. Never mind the way the whole thing's written, the literary form of it. Never mind that the same enemy is described in chapter 16 and that he's a bully and a thug. Never mind that he's a vagrant. Ignore all that. Here's this word, Satan, and he comes into the presence of the sons of God. Oh, well, that's the angels in heaven. Well, do you think, because elsewhere, according to the church tradition, he got thrown out of heaven. And here it is in Job, having him coming back twice. It's just dysfunctional.
So is there
inconsistent.
any other books in the Bible? Are there any other books in the Bible that are written the way Job is, or is it the only book that's like that? Or is it similar to the Psalms and Proverbs, or is it like its own thing?
Well, in its high poetic status, it stands on its own. There are other parables, of course, which are told beautifully, but nothing as extensive as Job.
That's what I figured.
Yeah,
That's really
it's unique.
Yeah, that's right.
And I
Like,
can't wait for my friend and me to get this book out. And it really moved me. Sometimes, these insights, when I'm speaking them on my YouTube channel, it really moves me and chokes me. I choke with emotion at the beauty of it, and that Job really did. The way at the end, Job lays down everything, and it's convicting. Why am I holding anything back from God? Why should anyone even bother? Because this is beautiful. Because look what God is like, described.
right.
The power, His love for us.
Another verse that I really like how you explained, because again, when this is explained properly, it just makes so much sense. But you have Luke 22:3 and John 13:27, when this quote unquote Satan entered into Judas. Now, this one,
Right.
I think, again, is just another way of really proving how they've manipulated these scriptures. Because if you get into this, Luke 22 and John 13, this is another really good one.
I'm so glad you mentioned this passage. That's one of my favorites. And, but we should just mention Matthew 16, where the church Bibles appear to have Jesus call Peter Satan, but it should be lowercase adversary enemy.
I actually have that right under this, the Peter thing too, as well, because
Yes, right.
When Jesus called that to Peter, it's very similar to I mean, he called Peter Satan. So a lot of Christians will say, well, that means Satan must have entered into Peter at that moment. It doesn't say
That's
that, though.
right.
It doesn't say
No,
that.
no. You see what they add?
Right. You
They
have
have
to
to
add
add to
things
justify it.
in order. That's right.
Yeah,
And so nothing entered into Peter. Jesus was calling Peter an enemy because of what he said, because of what he.
exactly.
That's right. So then
Yes.
yeah. So that's what.
It's so simple.
It is so simple.
If I said to somebody, I'm going to cycle into town and get some shopping, and somebody said, I'm going to puncture your bike, if I were Greek, I'd say, you Satan, you're being an enemy to my
Exactly.
purposes.
Don't be
It's
an
just
adversary.
that.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's right. An
I'm not
enemy
saying,
adversary.
yeah, I'm not saying that a fiction monster is going to enter in through your ears or your
Exactly.
mouth or whatever. Yeah, so it's again, they have to construct a justification around it, which is nonsense. Because then Jesus says those wonderful words to Peter in Matthew 16, I give you the keys of the kingdom, and he's just elevated him. So,
Right.
right, let's get on to the passage you mentioned about Satan entered Judas.
That's right. This one's good. I really like this because again, you have proof in Acts is
That's
where
it.
the proof is.
That's where it is. So I did a video about this. I can't remember what I called it, but I think I called it something like the stupidest sentence in English literature, Satan entered Judas. And it is. It's such a stupid sentence. Did that not stop them? Even before I knew that Satan was fiction, it stopped me. And I didn't translate it that way. I put something like, I think I put hostility. But that wasn't right. But at least the passage, the context convicted me that it cannot, at this point, be written as Satan. It's idiotic nonsense. So, doubtless the pastors would have a lot of extra explanations that explain to us, oh, well, it's like Satan entered the serpent. Well, actually, man, you're just talking about Milton's Paradise Lost, book 1 at this point. Nothing to do with the Word of God. So this Satan entered Judas, it's wonderful. Entered. Eis urchomai eis in the Greek. Now, eis is a preposition meaning motion towards or through or into, and then urchomai means to go into. So it's rather tautology, so to go into. But it's a Greek idiom, and it occurs again in Acts chapter 16, where Paul and Silas, isn't it? They go into the home of Lydia. Now, I love this passage as my daughter is called Lydia, so I told her all about this, and this wonderful woman, Lydia, entertains these apostles. And the apostles, eis urchomai eis Lydia. So it obviously means they went into her home and she entertained them. And doesn't it say, I think she bathed their wounds or something, or somebody did. And so they were hosted by a woman of God. So go back to the stupidest sentence in English literature, Satan entered Judas. Right, Satan, nah. An enemy, an adversary, went into the home of Judas. Now, we know from the end of, say, John chapter 11, that Jesus' enemies had got it in for him, because they said, what good is this doing us? He'd raised Lazarus. So their position in the heavens, metaphorically speaking, meaning rulership, was threatened. So they got a plot against him. So what did they do? They sent a mercenary round to Judas. We'll give you some money. Go and see what you can find out about this Jesus from Judas. He looks like a man who'll help us. And he did. Right, I'll tell you, on Wednesday, we'll be at such and such a place. And we'll be in the Garden of Gethsemane. That's it.
Basically,
Simple narrative.
right? Like a spy or someone from the Pharisees told somebody to go into the area or the house or wherever of Judas to maybe ask some questions about Jesus or something like that.
Yeah.
Just with that, because see, people don't look at the Greek words enough. They don't look into these things. Well, actually, the problem is the Strong's Concordance actually mentions devil and Satan as well, which is another
Oh, yeah.
problem.
Oh, the concordance says they follow the King Jim. That's the problem.
But again,
So
we have proof of what ice urchomai ice, right? Ice urchomai,
yeah, I
what that
search in my
means.
eyes.
The Greek
Yeah.
word for going into does not mean entering into their body. I mean, it means going into their space or house, just like it happened in Acts.
Yeah. So you have to go into the house. And so, well, readers do not have this facility of finding this I search in my eyes anywhere else. First, they're not trained to question it. And I mean, yes, some people do question it. I'm not saying there's no one, because there are people. That's why people write to me and ask what these things mean. And of course, there are others, plenty of others in the world who are looking into the scriptures and looking at the words. But how do they know how else to find ice urchomai ice? Well, I've got these grammars, books, and online that I can find these things. That's how I can come up with these things. And so I was so thrilled the day I found that in the narrative with Lydia. And so they're centuries of tradition undone by a little bit of research. Not Satan entered Judas, an enemy, a mercenary, working for the Sanhedrin or the scribes and Pharisees, went round to Judas's area. What can you give us about Jesus? Now, this happened about my brother. Um, he was a lawyer. One of his criminal clients was in prison for drug pushing, and a detective whose name I know, and I know where he works. This is from 25 years ago. Went into this prison and said to this criminal, what can you give me on Martin Sparks? As soon as he'd gone, he rang my brother's legal secretary and told him, I've just had a detective round asking me what you can give on Martin Sparks. That's the same thing. This detective, Urchinite Ice, a prisoner in jail for drug pushing. Same thing.
Right. The reason I want to go through these though is just to prove that there is an explanation for each time this word is used. This word enemy, because that's what it is. It means enemy
Yes.
or adversary. It doesn't mean anything other than that. So Luke 10:18
Yeah. Oh, I love this.
is another one.
Yes.
I saw
Yeah.
Satan, the enemy, falling like lightning from the sky. So we have another one.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. I love these passages. You know, they're refreshing to me because now I know what they mean. And long, long ago, did I abandon trusting any of the church versions. And so, you know, now I look at the Hebrew and the Greek when I'm checking. And then I will sometimes compare it with other versions. And yeah, sometimes I struggle, of course. Translating the Bible, I've said multiple times, is the hardest academic exercise in the world. 750,000 words, 3 different languages, written over a long period of time by 40 at least different writers. So first of all, cross out Satan, typex it out, and write adversary. I saw the adversary fall like lightning. Right, Isaiah 14. Down goes to the grave your pomp, brought down from the heavens. Revelation 12, we've got the same imagery. There are several passages, and I forget where it is, but somewhere in the Word of God, it talks about the Word of God being brought down because somebody didn't believe it. I forget where that is. But this is, again, this figure of speech that Derek needs bringing down to earth. So Jesus foresaw the enemy being brought down. Why like lightning? Well, I've seen a terrible lightning storm in St. David's in Wales. Oh, I don't know, 25 odd years ago. It was unbelievable to stand out and witness this. It was the most amazing lightning storm I've ever seen. And you see the speed of these flashes of lightning, that immense speed. That is how quickly the enemies are going to be brought down to earth, like that Derek in the office at work. He's going to be brought down that quick. The boss is going to walk in and say, out, you're fired. And let's be real. In the Gospels, who do you see as being Jesus' enemies? The scribes, the Pharisees,
Right.
the Sadducees,
Yes.
the Herodian Edomite dynasty of kings, beginning with Herod the Great, killed children, killed little infant children. Oh, what a man. Is he not one of these enemies? And then there's Antipas, and then there's Agrippa the First, Agrippa the Second. These are Herods from the Herod line. And so and they would naturally have promoted their own Edomite people. Now, were they really Edomites, these Herod kings? King Herod the Great, it's recorded, he destroyed his family records to conceal that he was an Edomite. Yes, they were Edomites from Esau, haters of Jacob. And so Jesus foresaw their destruction. They'd be brought down as fast as lightning. Now, this makes sense linguistically and um, contextually in the whole scope of the New Testament. But to say, I saw Satan falling like lightning, oh, well, that was back before time began, and this Satan rallied round some other fallen angels and they attacked God. This is fiction. It's nonsense. I believe in Father Christmas more than I believe that story. And I worked in a factory for a while, and there was a jukebox in there, and some of the engineers in this factory at Christmas time had that song "I Believe in Father Christmas" by Greg Lake, and they got it on the jukebox really loud, and the whole factory could hear these men singing it. It was wonderful. Yeah, so that's where I believe in Father Christmas more than I believe in John Milton's Paradise Lost. And yes, I have read it more than twice.
You know, what it sounds like you're saying here is you're mentioning the Pharisees, Sadducees, Herod. It sounds like it's men, people, that are doing
Yeah,
these bad things. And it's in Jeremiah that says that the heart is deceitful above all things. Now,
yeah,
listen to that. The heart, our hearts are deceitful. So if there was a Satan, if there was a devil, our hearts are more evil, more deceitful than that because it says above all things. Right?
mm.
So it's people, it's humans that are doing
Yes,
this.
it's people. I once sent somebody an avocado stone in an envelope with that text. Uh, the heart is deceitful above all things. It's Jeremiah 17, isn't it? That's what I sent him um,
So when
a long
people
time ago.
when and again like that is one of my favorite verses to explain this because you can't get around that. So if somebody believes in the Satan, devil, Lucifer, then how do they explain that our hearts are more uh, deceitful above all things? You can't get around that.
That's
That's
really good, David. I
yeah.
love that.
It's
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. You
that
can't
is
get
really
around
good.
it
No, you
because
can't.
so that means that that means that the human heart, if it's more deceitful than Satan, devil, and Lucifer, then what does that mean? How powerful are they? What, or how about when it says God does the good and the evil? I am the light in the darkness. I, the Lord, do all these things. There's no room for a Satan. Um,
No,
that's in
no, it
Isaiah,
isn't.
right? Where it
Yeah,
says, I, the Lord, do all these things. The dark and the light.
yes. Chapter 45, I create evil.
Right. I
Yeah,
create good and create evil. So
yeah,
where is there room for a Satan monster or a devil? Where is there room
that's
for
better.
this devil, this Satan, if
Yeah,
God does the good and the bad? There's
yeah,
just no room.
that's
Right.
really good. Yeah,
Yeah.
I hadn't thought of that, David. That is really good.
So, anyways, I like you explain it's basically people,
Yeah, it
evil
is. And
people.
this Milton, John Milton's Paradise Lost, I wrote about this when I was at college. And I believed in Satan then when I was at college. And uh, in terms of poetry, it's magnificent. It's an epic. It's absolutely magnificent. He was a mighty poet and he was a Christian. He wrote a sonnet on his blindness, which ends, they also serve who only stand and wait, right? Because he was suffering with his sight. And in book one of Paradise Lost, he describes this war in heaven and Satan falling out. And it's powerful literature, powerful poetry. Him the almighty power hurled headlong, flaming through the ethereal void with hideous ruin and combustion, down to bottomless perdition, there to dwell in adamantine chains and penal fire. Who durst defy the omnipotent to arms? So who dares to defy God to warfare? And but it's fiction. Beautiful poetry, powerful, but it's fiction.
I do have to kind of take back what I said though, because when I said it's evil people, there is a verse I want to talk about, not yet, because it's the last one I want to mention, but there is somebody who's not evil that is mentioned as Satan, but I'm not going to get there just yet. I think you
Okay.
might know what I'm talking about. How about Zechariah? Um, what is it? Three,
Oh,
one, and
14,
two.
isn't it?
Zechariah 3:1.
Oh, is it 3? Um,
Where it says, then he
yeah,
showed me Joshua the high priest standing before the angel of the Lord and Satan, standing at
yeah,
his right side to accuse him. The Lord
an
said to
enemy.
the enemy,
Yeah,
the Lord
now
said
we
to
know
the
what
enemy,
Satan means.
right,
It's a common noun. Incidentally, I should have added it's also a verb in Hebrew, meaning to oppose.
right,
So from the verb, you can also get what the noun means. It's not a proper noun. It's not a
right.
name. But so, yeah, that passage about Joshua the high priest, yeah, it's just an enemy, some enemy.
That simple, right.
Simple. Yeah.
And that's what the Bible is simple. But through tradition, through what people have tried to concoct these complicated things, like how there's a Satan, devil, they're all different creatures or they're all the same thing. It's confusing. And
Yes.
we don't have a God of confusion. I believe that's said in the Bible as well.
Yes. Yeah.
Um,
He is not the author of confusion. I think it's 1 Corinthians 14. Um,
and
yes.
there's, oh, sorry.
If they had not, no, sorry, you go on.
Well, I was going to mention Revelation 20 too. I mean, again, but it's the same thing though. We're talking about an enemy or an adversary here. But Revelation 22, same thing though. Mentions, yeah,
Yes.
sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. What I was going to say, sorry, I've lost it now. But yeah, Revelation 20, that's another one. Well, you've got the enemy, the adversary. You've got the dragon, the serpent, and the slanderer or false accuser, diabolos. Again, not a common noun. Sorry, not a proper noun, a common noun. Diabolos, slanderer, false accuser. Who were the slanderers, the false accusers of Jesus? Why was Jesus killed? On a false charge. Oh, shouldn't we then call his enemies diaboloi, false accusers? And the dragon, the serpent, John the Baptist came calling the enemies of God serpents. So Matthew 3, and so did Jesus, Matthew 23. He called them, the scribes and Pharisees in Matthew 23, serpents, offspring of vipers, brood of vipers. We get these phrases. So translate that. They're talking about the men. They were addressing, talking about men, not fiction monsters. And they're being called serpent. Right, take that into the book of Revelation, which is all about that apostolic period. And these are the false accusers, the adversary, the serpents, and yes, of course, the dragon. And the Old Testament, crocodile, leviathan, serpent, all these are common nouns used by the prophets and apostles to describe God's enemies. So
That's right.
simple.
Now, there is one that I was saving for last. I don't know if this is going to be the last one, but um, this is the big one to show that what Satan means is 2 Samuel 24 and 1 Chronicles 21. That
Yeah,
those
right.
two, this one's huge because Chronicles is referring back to 2 Samuel,
Yeah,
right? And it mentions Satan and it mentions the Lord, Yahweh.
right. Yeah.
So there are some people that try and say that that means Yahweh is Satan. Um,
Oh, well, yeah.
right. But what it
We can't
really
deal with those people.
is who was the adversary to Israel at that time? God was.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, yeah. So,
I
I
mean,
mean,
if you
they're
want to get into
calling
that verse,
God
I mean,
Satan.
that's what it is. I mean, it doesn't mean that because how else can you describe why it would call God Satan? Does that mean, some people will say, well, Satan did it too. It was both of them. It doesn't say that.
Yes, yeah. Yeah,
Recounting
it doesn't
what
say that.
happened.
Yeah. As if God would do something, with Satan. Hey, Satan, let's go and do this.
No,
This is the fiction, the stupidity, the idiocy that they have to add to the narratives to make sense of their construction.
Well, I think that these two passages is what proves that there is no Satan, because if God says Yahweh, his anger was kindled against Israel, right? For David numbering them or something like that is what it said.
Yes, that's right. Yes.
And Chronicles is chronicling back to Second Samuel, and it's talking about what happened. It says Satan, his anger was kindled against Israel. They're talking about God, Yahweh.
Yes.
They're
Calling him Satan.
right, which means
Unbelievable. There's another place where they call God Satan by inference. So you say, people like you and I say there's no Satan, and so they say, um, 2 Corinthians 4:4, the God of this world, that's Satan, he's blinding people. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Hold on. The first thing to do is check the translation. What's the Greek for world?
isn't it Gi or is it
Oh, that's Earth.
Wickamany or no?
Earlier you mentioned cosmology,
Yeah.
right? Cosmos
Okay.
is
Okay.
Greek for world. That is not in 2 Corinthians 4:4. It's aeon. It's God of this eon. So for a start, they bungled the translation in the King James, for which I have no respect. And then, so that's their translation, the God of this world. And it goes on to say about him blinding people in case they might receive the radiancy of the gospel. Well, this is in Isaiah. This is God who does this. And I think it's mentioned in Romans 9 that it's God. That if God can reveal things to us, and, you know, we are blessed in that we have had these things revealed to us. It's only by the grace of God that you and I know these things. He's chosen to reveal them to us, whereas others he has left in blindness. He's the God of this age. And so by calling that God of this world, the false phrase, calling it Satan, they're calling the Lord God Satan. So that's another place where they call God Satan.
Right. Exactly. And there is no. You mentioned before that the only people that rule this world is God and Jesus, who He gave the keys of the kingdom to. So there's no other person that can, you know, be the ruler of this place, right? There can be people that are ruling, like what we see now, but they're not the ruler of the world, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, they're called cosmocraters in Ephesians 6, verse 12. So they're world rulers, but after Jesus' baptism, God gave him authority over all things. And I think it's Matthew 11:27, but I just will check that in my book here, as I want to give the right passage. And it's also in Matthew 28:19. Jesus says the same thing. All authority has been given to me. And so Jesus at the moment has all authority over this world and nobody else. Uh, Luke, no, Matthew. Yeah, it is. It's Matthew 11:27. Everything has been handed over to me by my Father. So he's the ruler. There's no fiction monster to call God of this world. Jesus is the ruler of this world. And in Revelation 3:12, it says of Jesus, he's the ruler over the creation of God. So the creation is God's, but Jesus has been put in charge. There's nobody else but
There's all
human rulers.
there's also examples of, I want to call it translation tomfoolery here, where in First John 5:19 they mention in their translation the evil one. Okay, they mention the evil one, and in your translation it says, we know that we are from God. So in their translations, it says, we know that we are from God, and the entire world is held in subjection to the evil one. That's what their translations say. Okay. In
Right.
yours, it says, We know that we are from God, and the entire world is held in subjection in evil. So those are two
Yes,
huge different
yes,
translations. That's why I say translation matters, because one translation says the evil one, and the other one says in evil, because there is evil
yes,
everywhere. Okay,
yes,
what we're
yeah.
in.
So
So
evil is a noun, and in Greek, nouns can take um, the article the or the, whereas in English we don't need them. So we Greek might say held in subjection to the evil, but that's not right English, but just evil. And even um, theos for God sometimes has an article in front of it, the God. I pray to the God. So Bullinger, in his companion Bible, makes a margin note about this, the one true God. He's glad the article's in there.
so again, it's a translation kind of mishap, which is why again I
Yes,
say translation matters, because it does matter. The evil one and in evil are just two completely different meanings. They're trying to
yes.
make it seem like there is just this one evil being, which by the way takes away from the actual humans that are doing bad things.
That's
That's
what
why
I always say. It lets them off the hook. That's what I keep saying.
that's why
Yeah,
this is so important, because if people are thinking it's mythological creatures and monsters, you can't do anything about it, but it's just people. And it also takes away accountability among even Christians if they say, well, the devil made me do it or the demons made me do it.
yeah,
Jeremiah says that
yeah.
your heart is the most deceitful thing,
Yes, right,
not
yes.
the devil.
To any to anybody speaking like that, I would say, grow up and accept responsibility. Oh, about 25 years ago, let me think, is that right? No, a little bit more than that. I heard a pastor in a church say, I was there, I heard these words, the devil has been attacking my finances. He existed on church contributions. So I thought, what you meant is, you've been letting your wife and your daughter spend too much on dresses and CDs.
Exactly. Exactly. It's a great way to deflect from
Yeah,
our own issues, our own problems that we have to work
yeah.
on.
Take responsibility.
Now, the last one I want to bring up is John 12:31 that mentions the prince of this world. Now, this one's interesting. Um, John 12:31 here. And it says here, now is the judgment of this world. Now the ruler of this world will be driven out. Okay. That's in
Yeah,
yours. In your translation, it says the ruler of this world. In their translations, it says the prince of this world. Okay.
okay. I don't mind that, Prince. Um, but, who is it? What
Right.
is it? Where is it? John 12,
John 12:31.
31. Here, I got it. Yeah. Right. So the world in the New Testament does not mean the whole hemisphere. Um, it means that Mediterranean world where the
Like the
apostles
known world?
traveled.
Like the
Yeah,
known world? Yeah.
yes, and I do believe the British Isles are implicit in a couple of passages in Isaiah, far off countries and far off islands. Um, it is the known world where the 12 tribes of Israel were, and other countries around that region that were mentioned. So in Colossians 1, it talks about the gospel has gone out into the whole world. Well, did it go to the Congo? I don't think so.
Right. And
So
that's
it means, yeah, the area where the apostles went. So that's the first thing, the ruler of this world. So who was the ruler of that world? Well, it was the Romans, but they who ruled over something like a third of the known world, um, uh, according to one history I read. But also then Julius Caesar instigated or instituted a an Edomite king in Judea, Herod. So he was another ruler. And so, well, who was brought down? What ruler of the world was brought down by the actions of Jesus? Well, Luke 10:18 that you talked about earlier. The enemy, I saw the enemy falling like lightning. So now the ruler of this world or the prince of this world is brought down. It must be the same people.
Right. And again, when you know that what these words mean, Satan, adversary, enemy, uh, it just makes so much sense. Um,
But yeah,
yeah,
there is another explanation though to the ruler of this world, uh, an alternative explanation which I would not reject, and it says that that ruler of this world is sin. So
okay,
that works as well.
right.
So I
Because
would
it
say
was,
to,
yeah,
yeah, you
sorry.
can make your choice. I would say to listeners, you make your choice.
Is, uh, is there any other? I see. I really wanted to focus on when where Satan was mentioned, and I did get a lot of verses. I don't know if there's any more that you can think of.
Revelation
Um,
12.
that's right, Revelation 12.
Yes, I love it, Revelation 12. It's one of my favorite passages. You know, I've got favorite passages, of course, as many people have, and some of the Psalms. But Judges chapter 5 is one of my favorites. A beautiful poem by Deborah, and then I love Jonah chapter 2. These are passages I just keep looking at, and then I love Ephesians 6, and I love Revelation 12. I really love it. It's just so beautiful. It relates back to Jesus saying in Luke 22 to his audience, his listeners, when you see Jerusalem surrounded by military camps, get out, flee into the country areas, flee into the mountains. Revelation 12 recalls this, and it shows that those who were obedient, it says, were taken, this is all Revelation 12, on eagle's wings, and they were nourished. So those who were obedient got away from this enemy of Satan, Diabolos, the dragon, and the serpent. So the adversary, the false accuser, the dragon, and the serpent, all one and the same people. And they're listed the same together in Revelation 20, verse 2. So you get this four, um, four names of them, or describing these people: the dragon, the serpent, the adversary, the false accuser, or the slanderer, all together in Revelation 12, all together in Revelation 20. This was the enemy that they had to flee from. And this enemy included the Romans, who were butchering people with swords, beheading them, 1.1 million. And Josephus says the blood was running so thick in the city that it was putting out some of the fires. But that's the blood they were running away from. Incredible. And those who were obedient and recalled Jesus' words, or Jesus' words being told to them by somebody else who'd heard them, Jesus said, "Oh yeah, okay, let's get out," and they were really looked after by God and nourished. I love that. It's just so beautiful. And so the enemy, it says, again, this brought down to the ground, hurled down to the ground. This figure of speech we've already had about um, King of Babylon in Isaiah 14, hurled down to the ground. And Luke 10:18, I saw the enemy fall like lightning. It's this figure of speech, which of course, church teaching tradition denies. And they say, oh, well, yeah, John Milton, yeah, he described this, this attack on heaven by Satan and his comrades, and they got thrown out of heaven. So Revelation goes back before the beginning of time. Utter nonsense.
They have to add in their own mythos basically to make that work. They have to add their own stories to it. or else it
Yes,
just
they
doesn't
do.
make sense.
And they
Because
go
it,
right out of time because Revelation chapter 1 says it is about the day of the Lord. That's what it says, the tribulation. And John says, 1 verse 10, I, John, your companion in the tribulation.
right. So I do believe we may have gone over every word that where every time Satan is mentioned. I really wanted to get those all in here because again, it's just so important that people know what these words mean. Uh, and it simply means enemy or adversary. And
Yeah,
even God was an adversary. Even God was a Satan. And again, it was
yes,
transliterated, not translated into the correct word.
yes, that's the problem. Yeah, the same with Lucifer. You know, they should have
Exactly.
put Venus. So
Exactly.
in the Latin Vulgate, yeah, fine to put Lucifer there because it meant Venus. But translate it into English, you've got put Venus or bright star or something like this.
Exactly.
Uh,
All right, Chris, I think we covered Lucifer and Satan in this discussion. I really wanted to get those two uh, taken care of because, again, I think it's simple. I think it's simple to
yes,
really debunk these things.
and especially as this word Satan comes from the Hebrew verb to oppose, that shows it. So I would ask listeners to consider that to oppose, to contradict, to be an adversary to that verb, and then a noun form, Satan, and then that Jesus called Peter this Satanas. Those two bits of information, they bring down this colossal
Absolutely.
fiction.
Peter was opposed to Jesus. God was opposed to Israel. You know,
Yeah,
there was a man, maybe an Edomite that was opposed to Job. Um, it just, there were maybe Pharisee spies or something that were opposed to Jesus, and they were going into Judas's domain, and that's
yeah,
really what it is. So,
yeah,
yeah, I'm
yeah.
glad we could really cover these two right now. I'm glad we
So
got
am I,
those two.
David. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I
I'm grateful for your insight as well.
I do
That's
want to get into
wonderful.
at another time devil, Nephilim, fallen angels.
Yeah,
I really want to do those too
yeah,
because
yeah. We
and
can do all this.
those are
Yeah.
also easy, by the way. Those are very easy
Yes.
to
Oh, they are.
debunk. Yeah,
Ephesians 6:12. Spirits of wickedness. Spirits put for people.
people.
In Hebrews 12 verse 9 in the keys of the kingdom, I footnote a lot of passages where spirit or spirits are put for people. It's Hebrew and Greek words, so pneuma in the Greek can be just put for a word used for people or person. But, you don't get taught the spirits, oh, it's some ugly, ghouly thing. Well, it isn't. The cosmocrators, world rulers, we know their names. You go into the supermarket, look at the newspaper rack, and you'll see their names all over the front pages. We know who they are.
That's right. And don't let them off the hook by saying that a demon or Satan or Lucifer is making them do it. It's them. It's their
Yeah.
own hearts are
Yes.
making them do it. They want to do it. All right, Chris. I think we can. Is there anything else you want to talk about when it comes to Satan or Lucifer? I think we covered just about everything for this
Well,
discussion.
yeah, just one thing I would like to say. A good friend of mine says about all this. I mean, I call it occult. That believe in this Satan, there's occult, and this good friend of mine said all this stuff, this fiction we've been talking about. What did he say? It's science fiction for mundane lives, entertainment.
And
Star
that's what
Wars,
it
he
is.
called it as
That's
well.
what it
Yeah, he
is.
called it Star Wars.
And
Yeah.
again, I do want to in the future talk about demons and stuff because then people will say, well, demons are aliens and they're all. That's not. And
No.
again, it gets a little complicated with demons, but I do believe we've actually discovered what those are too, but or what
Oh,
that means
yeah.
actually,
Yes.
what it means. So, all right,
Yeah.
Chris, I really want to thank you for this, and also, Chris has a website, keysofthekingdombible.com, and your YouTube is Keys of the Kingdom Holy Bible.
Yes.
So, also best translation ever, which I have. And by the way, it really is. I'm not just saying it. Before I found you, I was looking for the best translation. Okay. At the time, I was kind of rotating between Wycliffe, Tyndale, and Geneva 1599. Those are the three that I really liked. There wasn't even just one because they all have their issues, in my opinion. So I was kind of rotating between those three Bibles. Then I found
Right.
yours, and it really, I think, is the most accurate and logical. It's, you know,
Well, thank you. Yes, I mean, I work on this every day and have been doing it since 1997. And there are many, many issues to discuss. Um, but yes, I would say that these issues, these words we've been discussing, are footnoted in the Keys of the Kingdom with Greek and Hebrew words, their Strong's Concordance reference numbers, explanations, cross references. There are over 5,000 footnotes in this.
all right. All right, Chris. Thank you
And
very
there's a
much.
large print version coming out soon and an ebook.
Okay.
These have been sponsored. You know, people have written to me saying that do this.
All right. Awesome. All right, Chris, thank you
Yeah.
very much.
Thank you very much, David.
Yep.
Thank you.